In a dark and gloomy room, a man was lying. He was not sleeping, but lying dead. Besides him, there were two ladies standing by, staring at each other. The corpse looked like that of a human, but the truth was inside, which only these two knew. He was a zany. This older lady was the mother of the other girl named Nita. Her mother wanted her to help her out in their business by dissecting this late zany so that she could pack and sell his parts. She asked her to help carry that body over to their workroom. They carried the body to a room filled with various dissecting objects, preserving chemicals, and a stretcher on which the body was about to get chopped into pieces. They worked together and placed the body on the stretcher. Now that everything was set, Nita's mother asked her to start the work, but she was not ready for it as it was midnight. She told her that she wanted to sleep, but her mother told her that taking care of Zanny was a more important task than her sleep. She asked her to finish it up before she came back from Buenos Aires. As she was leaving, she left a last message for Nita: do not touch the head of that corpse, as it had $1 million bounty on it. Xanas look like humans, but they are not. They are beings that feed on the pain that humans feel, and for that, they sometimes cause the pain themselves. For them, it's just as if they are preparing food. But in reality, they were torturing people with methods that were unheard of. They even went to an extent where only the consciousness of a person remains irrelevant to their sanity. They are the real monsters, and since Nita knows about all of this, she does not feel bad while dissecting them. It was a means for her to help her family business by dissecting and selling it out. She was ready with her gloves, mask, and glasses, which she really didn't need but were for the kick. She put on her earphones and started working. As the sun was rising, she was done with her work. Towards dawn, she walked out, as there was no way for her to sleep with all that blood and gore she had gone through for the night. Adrenaline was rushing through her mind, so she decided to move out in order to get some refreshment. Outside, she read a book that she had. She strolled around the park and spent the rest of her day with her book. There was no need for her to be at home in a hurry, so she did what she wanted to do and went back home in the late evening. She entered her home and noticed that the door was open. It meant that her mother had returned. It's normal for her to be out for days in search of products that can be sold on the black market. She usually comes with dead bodies, but today was different. As she entered the storage room, she saw her mother enjoying some fine wine. Other than that, a pistol was lying on the table. Nita asked her about her trip and the products that she had brought tonight. She asked her to look for that herself. It was not how it was supposed to go. A very light huffing sound was in the room, which she didn't care about. When she turned on the lights and looked the other way, she realized that the body that her mother had brought today was not a dead one. Surprised to see a teenager breathing heavily inside the cage, Nita asked her mother about him, as this was the first time that she had brought a living body. Her mother told her that this boy is not like any other unnatural that she had brought till now. For starters, he's not on the list. The list, to be precise, is a collection of known unnaturals that the government had. They were placed on that list based on their types, abilities, and the violence that they could and had caused. Based on this list, most of the dangerous unnaturals got some huge bounties on their heads. Her mother wanted her to ship out the Zanny parts immediately, as she was looking through the wallet of that unnatural. She asked Nita the reason for not checking his wallet. Nita told her that it's better for her to not look at their personal items in order to prevent any personal connections. This is what her mother wanted to hear, and now that she's satisfied, she was about to move. But Nita asked her about the boy, not to pry, she just asked about his class. Her mother didn't even know that herself. Nita asked if it was difficult to capture him. It was not, but surprisingly, the difficult part was taking him back with her. At the airport, she had this boy lying unconscious in her car. After a long while of plotting a way to get him on the flight, an idea struck her. She took him in a wheelchair as if he were sleeping, and he passed through that place easily. Nita asked if anyone had noticed them, and the answer was yes. But it was like a regular walk in the park with her acting skills. She had gone through all this hassle to bring this living unnatural with her back to her home so that she could earn what he was worth, as his previous owner was selling vials of his blood for $10,000. With this high-quality product that she had gotten, there was no way for her to miss the chance of making a fortune out of him. She even started her mission with one of his toes being shipped out. Nita looked at his leg and saw one of his toes being chopped apart. She asked her mother if she's planning to sell him out while he's still alive, and the answer again came as a yes, with the reasoning that it will help them keep the parts fresh. Her mother went ahead and asked her to help her take the Zanny parts out. As she was about to leave, she heard the clanging of the boy's shackles. She looked at him and saw a miserable boy who sought help in Spanish. His words moved her, as this is not something that she's supposed to do. overjoyed by the fact that she's getting a six-figure income just from a single toe. Nita's mother decided to sell the extremities before any core organ to milk everything out of that unnatural. Nita tried to know more about her thoughts on that boy, so she initiated the conversation and told her that the boy seemed harmless. Her mother responded to her in a positive manner and said that it would make it easier to work with him. Thinking of that boy's condition, Nita remembered the only time shout against her mother. It was when she was 12 years old. Her mother brought some dacts, but innocent 12-year-old Nita was unaware of the fact that these dacts were for business purposes. But when she knew about it, the balance between her mind and emotions got shaken. Her mother didn't stop there and brought a new batch of dacts. But this time Nita had decided to prevent these dacts from facing the same fate as the previous ones. And for that to happen, she snuck into the basement in the night and took those dacts to a nearby 24-hour vet. Her mother was not happy when she knew what Nita had done, so the next day she brought another batch of dacts. But this time they were already dead. Infuriated by her actions, Nita flushed 5 pounds of pure unicorn bone powder. As a response to that insignificant deed of her very own daughter, she poisoned the dact food supply in the pet store, which resulted in the death of almost every dact in that store. And as a surprise for her daughter, she got some dead dacts placed on her bed, which cleared out the situation. Her father convinced her to stop all of that. But that incident marked an unspoken promise between them. If Nita ever disobeys her mother, then the consequences will be far worse than anything that she could imagine. As Nita was thinking about this incident, her mother called her out and asked why she wasn't helping her out. Nita didn't even care about her question and told her that the boy could talk. With a pretty uninterested manner, her mother said that she knew he could talk, but, in a curious manner, asked her what he said. Nita knew that if she had told her the truth, then something bad would happen, so she told her that he said nothing but her mother. At this point, she knew that he had said something that she did not want to tell him, and suddenly a knock on the door occurred. It was the pizza that her mother had ordered. The scene shifted to them having pizza. Her mother had finished, and Nita seemed uninterested. Her mother saw the dirty tap water running and decided to get some bottled water for herself from the store. She went out, but on the other hand, Nita had decided something else. Seeing those dull slices of pizza, she remembered the living boy that she had in her basement. She took one slice for him and went to the basement. In the basement, she went near him and gave him the slice. He took a part of it and thanked her. When he moved his shackled hand to take another piece from that slice, his hand got restricted. Nita helped him by taking that slice near his mouth, and he ate it by himself. Now Nita started getting nervous, as this situation as a whole was getting pretty awkward. Her social skills were already dim, and because of that, she was not able to continue what was going on there. That boy asked her name. She hesitantly told him and asked his name as well. The response came in a similar manner, with the boy being called Fabrizio Takanen. This name seemed familiar to her from some works of Shakespeare. She asked him, but he was unaware of Shakespeare. Nita wondered if he had ever attended a school, as Shakespeare is someone everyone knows about. She was thinking all of that while Fabrizio was telling her that one of his father's friends has a similar name. But it's Fabrizio. The situation was getting complex, so Nita decided to leave. As she was going, Fabrizio asked her what was about to happen to him. Nita didn't tell him anything and said that she did not know it herself. When she got upstairs, she saw her mother with the pistol in her hand. She asked her why she was talking to that boy. Nita said that there's no reason for her to talk to that boy, and there's nothing for her to talk to him. Her mother accepted this answer, saying that she knew about her social incompetency. She also knows that if she talks to that boy, she will develop sympathy for him, and that will be the last thing she wants in her life, as she knows about its consequences. Nita had held her breath during this conversation, as the nervousness of facing her mother had taken over her. Nita's mother told her that she'd be cutting one of his ears tonight as she had a deal on her way. Nita tried to stop her and said that she could not do it tonight. Her mother asked her why can't she. On this question, Nita made up this reason for the ear to remain fresh, since they cannot ship that ear overnight. It would get stale by the morning. Her mother was impressed by her reasoning and agreed to cut that ear in the morning. Nita went out on the streets of Peru. It's the place where they live, where the tourists come to see the beauty of this country and taste the talents of those who live there. She was walking on the vacant streets while thinking about the decisions that she always wanted to make. She wanted to go to college to learn more about the supernatural. Learning about those she's been cutting down would help her a lot in her work. She had been fascinated with dead bodies since she was young. She feels a strange peacefulness in the hearts of the dead. The silent movement is what makes the dead truly beautiful. But for her, there was one more thing that was more beautiful than the hearts of the dead. It was the eye of the dead. Dead eyes with no emotions, no reactions, and nothing at all are very simple for her to understand, as they do not show the complexities that the eyes of the living show. According to her, entire stories can be told through the eyes of the living. She remembered the reaction that Fabrizio's eyes had shown while she was observing the eyes of the people that she was seeing in the store. She had taken 2 large water bottles from there, and while she was making the payments, she noticed the eyes of the news anchor telling about the debates that were being made both in favor and in opposition of the decision to transfer unicorns to the dangerous unnaturals list. Nita was done with the payments, and as she was leaving, she saw a man giving her a weird smirk. She moved out of that place as fast as she could and reached her home. She expected her mother to be asleep by that time and was glad that the day was finally over. She switched off the lights and went to sleep. She woke up with a sudden scream. It was morning already. She took her scalpel and came running outside, where she noticed that the screams were coming from the basement. She went there and found her mother with a syringe in her hand. She then saw Fabrizio, who had blood on his face coming out of his ear. Her mother asked her to help her out. She was trying to give him anesthesia before chopping his ear off. Fabrizio was terrified. He was kicking the cage and rolling in it to prevent her from becoming unconscious. While she was trying to give him the injection, Fabrizio shook the cage and made her loosen the syringe. It fell inside the cage, and he crushed it with his elbow. With an angry but helpless face, he looked at Nita. In order to help him, she tried to shift the topic by asking her mother if she was going for the ear. But the situation turned on her when her mother told her to finish the job. Her mother had made it easier for her by reminding her that she was already holding her scalpel in her hand. There was only a little bit of his ear that was left connected to his head. Nita asked her why she hadn't sedated him properly. Her mother, in a quirky manner, said that she had expected it to have ended before he could even know about it. But Nita had now realized that all of this was her mother's plan. This is what she wanted to happen. This was the exact place she wanted Nita to be. It was her punishment for talking to him and then lying about it. From the beginning of this morning, she wanted her to wake from Fabrizio's screams, and then, in a rush, she would have no other choice but to help her. Fabrizio asked for help from her by calling out her name. Things were clear for her mother as she passed this acknowledgement from Fabrizio in Nita's name. Now that she knows how much trouble she's in, there is no way to back down at this point, as it will only make matters worse. Nita went to him and put her scalpel into the cage, but Fabrizio again started shaking the cage, which made Nita cut her own hand. Her scalpel fell down, and one of her tendons was severed. This was the best reason that she had found, and she told her mother that she'd not be able to hold the scalpel. Her mother took the scalpel and washed it while asking her to do it with her other hand. But Nita slipped away, saying that she did not want to accidentally damage the ear and make her lose money on it. Another fair reasoning. And with that, her mother praised her, but suddenly threw the scalpel, which hit the ear and severed it completely apart. The ear got stuck on the wall with the scalpel while Fabrizio was on the ground. She took the scalpel with her ear and packed it in a plastic bag while she called Nita, but she didn't listen in anger for the first time. But she had no other choice but to listen to her in the second call. She told her that she had expected her hand to have healed by now and left the basement. The fact of instant healing that her mother was referring to was a part of her greatest secret, of her being an unnatural. Different unnaturals have different abilities, and the one that Nita has allows her to manipulate her internal body functions according to her will. But these are not as easy as they seem. They require a lot of practice and knowledge of one's own internal self. The increment in the blood clotting factors must be done very carefully, or it would completely seal the blood flow. All of these manipulations are about the maintenance of the equivalent, the natural balance of the body, and now at her age, she has somewhat mastered this art, this skill of hers. But sadly, the effects of this skill cannot be shared with anyone as she wanted to while pitying over the whimpering Fabrizio. She had no other choice but to leave the place and go upstairs, where her mother admired her acting skills, through which she acted out getting injured by the object she spends the most time with. In an angry tone, she said that it was an accident. Her mother asked about her wound, which was hiding behind her back, but she knew that she had already healed that up. She told her that she had expected a better result from her, not for being unnatural but for being her daughter. Now Nita was not in any condition to handle her taunts, so she decided to leave the house, but her mother reminded her that the Zanny parts were yet to be shipped. This time, she replied back and said that she should do that herself. While she was calling Nita, she ignored her and left the house. A punishment is something that would be inevitable after talking back to her mother, and Nita knew that. But she still had a lot going on in her head. Regarding the behavior of her mother and then her own mental conditions, she remained in that secluded home, all alone, away from everyone. In order to relieve all this stress, she took what she likes the most at times like these, picarones. She enjoyed that plate of picarones while her phone buzzed with notifications from her father. After enjoying that meal, Nita went ahead. On her way, she noticed that her phone buzzed again. It was her father, asking about her well-being. This message reminded her that her father is the one who always gets what's going on with her and comes to help her whenever she gets into tense situations. It was like an automatic long-distance response that occurs in him whenever anything goes south with her. She remembered the time when something similar happened. It was when she was learning to ride a bicycle but failed miserably, causing a crash and a little wound on her elbow. Her father came rushing to help her, but by that time, she had already prevented the inflammatory response but also unknowingly paralyzed herself. Even in situations like these, her father was always there for her, and now he is as well. He had arrived, even digitally, but she was still able to tell about her complexities and problems. This immediate, uninvited response was like some kind of extrasensory ability that he would have gotten by becoming a father. Their conversation began with her casual reply, after which her father asked about the new pet that she had gotten. Pet is the title that Fabrizio got from her father. Sometimes, they had to talk to each other in code words in order to prevent any kind of surveillance from the government. She said that she doesn't like being with him, but he said that she would not have to deal with him for much longer. This message was followed by a warning from her father, more like a caution message, which instructed her not to do anything stupid in this situation. This message shook her, as she had never expected her father to say something like this. This message marked the beginning of her telling a lie to her father. It was the first time that she was about to tell a lie to him in the form of acceptance of his cautious message. In the text, she assured him that she'd not make any kind of irrational decision. But that was the only thing that she was about to do. To cheer her mother's mood, she had brought some of her favorite foods, and she also wanted to get on her good side because she knew how she pissed her off last time. Carrying some hope and some food, she walked to her home and inside saw her mother. She told her that she was handling the zany parts herself, like what she had ordered her to do. She was using a giant pair of pliers to cut down the parts in order to fit them inside. Nita showed her the bag and told her that she had brought dinner for her. Her mother asked her to put that on the table. Nita did the same and brought out the food, to which her mother told her that she had brought a little too much of that. But the other Nita reminded her of that boy in their basement. Mother was still not pleased, and Nita countered her unpleasant attitude with a sensible question about the boy's feed. Her mother told her that she's caught in some unfavorable situations and gave her a reminder of their last enmity, which was caused by the incident with some baby dacts. Nita gave her a glare and went to the basement. In the basement, Fabrizio was about to ask her something, but she told him not to talk to her and said that she was here only to feed this chicken to him. Fabrizio told her that her mother was going to take away one of his eyes tomorrow. There was no way for him to know about it, so she asked him, and he said that her mother herself had told him. She wanted him to be scared. He asked Nita how long did he have to wait until all of his body parts were sold. Nita didn't have anything to say, so she left the food there and went upstairs while Fabrizio was begging for her help. Even when she was sleeping, his words were echoing in her head. I don't want to die. She was not able to sleep. Her head was filled with negative thoughts. She tried her hardest to suppress the stress hormones and release dopamine. But even that didn't work. She was breathing heavily. All the thoughts regarding her mother, the past incidents, Fabrizio, and her father were filling up her mind, revolving around and coming in front one after another. She was not able to take that anymore and looked at her money box. Now she had made up her mind. With the torch on her phone, she went into her mother's room and saw her sleeping. Without making any other sound than the creaking of the floor, she reached for her pliers and took them with her to the basement. Due to her presence, Fabrizio woke up and asked her what she was doing. She told him to remain silent and said that she was going to save him. With the hopes of protecting Fabrizio from the clutches of her mother, Nita started cutting the bars of the cage. One after another, Fabrizio wanted to say something, but she silenced him and continued until she removed 3 bars from the cage. The handcuffs that Fabrizio had were tied from the inner side of the cage. Nita severed that rod, and finally Fabrizio came out. He asked her the reason for not cutting down the lock instead, but she didn't have any answer for that. Fabrizio asked her to cut down the handcuffs. She tried, but instead of cutting down the handcuffs, she ended up breaking one arm of the pliers. She told him that she would need to dislocate his thumbs to get him freed, but Fabrizio didn't want that. Just then, they heard a sudden creaking sound. They decided to go upstairs. Her mother was still sleeping, so they quietly went out of the house. Fabrizio enjoyed the fresh air, as he had not expected to feel it ever again. Nita told him about the bus leaving for Quito, Ecuador, in an hour and that he should board it. Fabricio asked her why she wanted to send him to Ecuador. Nita told him that the non-human police had no power here, but in Ecuador, they'd help him by putting him into the unnatural protection program. She told him that her mother had warned him to never trust government agencies like the INHUP. Soon they made it to the stop where the bus was standing. She used the $83 that she had saved for college and bought tickets for him. She told Fabricio about the tickets, but he was looking the other way with a sad look on his face. He said that he could not do it. When Nita questioned him, he said that he could not go. Nita got it as a hint from him, saying that he could not go on the bus looking like that. Handcuffed, blood on his face, and a missing ear. She took him to the restroom to clean him up. Using some tissues, she started cleaning the blood on his face. Fabricio was afraid, as her mother had already found him once, and she was able to do that again as well. Or it could be someone else with motivations like her. Nita told him that no one knows what their future holds, but she's certain of one thing. Whatever it is, it will be better than what he's going to face here. Now that his face is all cleaned up, they're ready to take the next step towards an unseen future. Nita gave him the ticket that she had bought and told him to call the INHUP before he reached the border, as they would help him pass the border without a passport. Fabricio asked how he would be able to call since he does not possess any phone with him. To that, Nita gave it a thought and gave her own phone to him, saying that he needs it more than her. The engine of that bus had started, and the remaining passengers started boarding as well. Fabricio thanked her and asked if she was not coming with him. Nita said that she had to go back. Fabricio told her that her mother would be angry with her, and she's already pretty dangerous. She said that it'll be okay, as she will not remain angry forever. With that, she gave her jacket to him. He apologized, thanked her for all that she had done for him, and went on to the bus. It was rare for her to feel like a good person. She was feeling proud of herself, but this pride was not able to compete against the fear that was growing in her heart. The fear of the unknown that her mother could do. With each step, it increased. She knows that there is no one who can save her now. Even knowing that, she entered her house. A creaking sound on the floor indicated to her mother that she had arrived. She called her into her room, where she was standing beside her broken pliers. Finally, in the moment of truth, they both faced each other. Nita went into the room and faced her mother, but the first thing her mother asked was the duration. The time since Fabricio's been gone. Nita said that it's around an hour or so. Her mother told her to pack her things and go with her, as they were leaving that place. Nita knew what was going to happen, so she started packing her things in a bag. She packed her clothes and all the other important stuff that she had, along with an unnatural medical journal that she had prepared herself. Her mother called her out, and she went with her in a cab. They left their house. Nita had expected her mother to be furious, but her calm and composed nature is a much more terrifying thing for her. She saw the cab driver and wanted to ask her mother about something, but she silenced her. A disturbing silence prevailed until they reached the hotel. Her mother was in a rush to change their shipping address as they could not afford to have any mail at their address once the police took over their house. Nita asked what they would do if a package was already shipped to them. Her mother said that she'll just need to find the delivery man to take the package before anyone knows about it. Nita was depressed, while her mother was committed to their safety. She wanted to talk about Fabricio with her mother, but she stopped her and told her that she would not like to talk to her about him at this moment. She went out and slammed the door, which made a painting on the wall fall over and break its frame. Depressed, Nita fell on the bed and thought of contacting her father, but then realized that she had given her phone to Fabricio. She called herself stupid for that decision, but then remembered that she had the laptop with her. She took that out and typed a message to her father. As she was typing, she heard someone at the door trying to get in. She asked if it was her mom, but just then, a man in a dark-colored hood came from the window behind her. Nita knew that the person at the door was not her mother. She rushed towards the broken painting and grabbed it to hit him. But she didn't see the man entering the room through the window. As the door opened, another man came inside and got hit by Nita, but the one behind her was able to successfully sedate her with a syringe. Dizziness took over. She fell to the floor and became unconscious. She saw scalpels falling from the sky along with her. First, she thought that she was flying, but then she realized that she wasn't. It was like she was in an airplane. Her dizziness hasn't worn off yet. She was having weird thoughts, but then she saw herself standing in an empty void with nothing but a scalpel lying vertically on the ground in front of her. She took that, but suddenly it turned into the syringe, which sedated her. She threw that away and remembered that a hooded man had used that syringe on her from the back. Things were getting a bit clearer while we saw someone taking her somewhere on a stretcher. The sound of the wheels made her body itch. Soon she woke up to a bright light while feeling itchy. She remembered the whole situation and tried to remove that drug from her blood. She started breathing heavily and stayed there for a moment. Then, with her shaky legs, she stood up and went to a glass that was separating her, confining her into the cell in which she was. She looked out and told herself that she should remain calm in situations like these. Outside, she saw an empty bottle and then a girl looking at her as if she were staring into her soul. That girl bent down and picked up the bottle. She was in the opposing cell with Nita. Nita saw her drinking the water from that bottle. The girl asked her why she was not drinking the water, and Nita asked if the water was drugged. She picked up the bottle and observed that her hands were shaking. She was ready to drink the water, but just then the pink-haired girl told her that they would not give her water. A thought about they arrived in her mind. She took a sip but started coughing as she gulped it down. The girl asked her name, but Nita didn't say anything because she wasn't sure if she could trust her. She sat there and observed her shaking hands, which she had already tried to control. She then tried to remember how she had reached this place. She wanted to know where she was and how she could come out of this place. She faced the glass and saw her own reflection. From there, she realized another point, that she cannot use her abilities while she's confused. So the first thing she has to do is clear her mind. She tried to stop all the thoughts that were rushing into her mind. She was overthinking, and this was causing her to panic. Now that she had the problem and the solution, the first thing that she had to do was work on that solution, which was to clear out the basic questions that had laid the foundation of this scenario. How did she reach this place? An answer came: she was kidnapped. But how? Who and why did this happen? Who could have done that? Was she followed? Maybe it could have started when they left the house. Or maybe the taxi driver could be one of them. Maybe he would have shared their location. But it happened when her mother left. There was a high possibility that they would have waited until her mother left. They knew about her mother, but still, there's also a possibility that her mother had planned this. She had a solid reason for doing that. This should be the punishment that her mother gave her for helping Fabrizio. The pink-haired girl asked if she wasn't going to talk to her. Nita, in a rude manner, asked what she wanted, but she had nothing in particular. She told her that her name was Mariella. Nita saw her and decided to trust her a little, as this is a completely unknown place for her and she had some information about it. She told her name and asked about this place. Mariella told her that they were prisoners, but Nita didn't digest that. Mariella asked her if she knew, but Nita didn't know what she was referring to, which proved that she really didn't know, but everyone who had ever come here knew about it. Nita asked her to explain what she was talking about. She told her that this place, where they are standing, is called the Mercado de la Muerte, which means the death market. The death market, a place she had only heard rumors of. She remembered the time when her mother had taken her to the black market with her. Her father had her all day with him, while her mother also looked after her. But that place was just a normal black market. The death market, on the other hand, is the place that only gets mentioned in private forums and subthreads. It was a place located somewhere near the Amazon River, a place over which the INHUP had no control at all. It simply meant one thing, that this entire town is dedicated to the trade of unnaturals and their parts. She heard a door opening and started slamming the glass. She asked if someone could hear her. Marielle told her that she's only wasting her energy by doing that, as these people can hear her but will not do anything. Nita had decided to get out of this prison. She punched the wall, but it didn't affect it at all. She then started looking for the most useful things that she could find. She checked the glass in the food window on the floor. Marielle told her that there was no way for them to escape from that place. But Nita was not going to back down that easily. She started slamming the glass wall in front of her, again and again and again until she lost her breath and her stamina. Marielle was giggling at her silly acts until she heard the door open. Footsteps were coming in their direction. A lady came with a boy and told him that it was awake. Nita, on the other hand, was controlling her cortisol level to not show any sign of fear. But even after that, she was not able to stop shaking her hands. The lady opened the gate with her fingerprint and allowed the boy, Kavit, to go inside. He entered the cell and told Nita that this would be over soon. Kavit pulled out a knife from his pocket, which scared Nita. Her fearful reaction made him excited. Nita asked him what he was going to do, but he didn't say anything and kept on closing the distance between them. On the other hand, the lady prepared her gun for any kind of unexpected event. Even if she could take the knife from him, getting away from this place would be impossible as the lady was standing at the door with a loaded gun in her hand. With a wicked smile, Kavit dashed into Nita and slashed her right arm with his knife, severing a small amount of skin from her arm. It was bleeding. Nita fell to the ground, but Kavit had no plan of stopping. He was ready for a second standout. Nita was afraid of him, and she was also afraid, so she stopped the pain receptors on her arm. Kavit asked her if she had stopped them. Nita asked him what he was talking about. He repeated his words again, but now with pain. He asked if she had stopped the pain. The lady called him out and told him to play with it later as they had got what they needed. The lady was happy to see the clotting speed of Nita's wound. It was as fast as she was told. Kavit got out of the cell and locked the door. They had the footage that they needed at the perfect angle, all thanks to the surveillance camera. On the inside, Nita was terrified. She wanted to know how Kavit was able to know that she had stopped the pain. There could be many reasons, but the biggest one that came to her mind was that he was Zanny. We were taken to the very beginning of the story when Nita told us about the Zannis. Kavit, one of her kidnappers, is a Zanny, a creature that feeds on human pain. These people also knew about her ability, which only 3 people in this world knew about. The first one is she herself, the second is her father, in whom she has an unmovable amount of trust. The person who would never betray her. The only one left was her mother, who has both the reason and the authority to do something like this. There was no other explanation than the one that her mother had sold her to this death market for teaching her a lesson. Nita was sulking on the bed while Marielle asked her if she was okay. She told her that she didn't want to talk to her. For a moment, the thought of her mother coming to rescue her passed through her mind, but then it left as soon as she remembered how angry her mother would have gotten after seeing that she had released Fabricio. Marielle apologized to her and said that she should have told her about Zanny, but she also assured her that he'd not harm her as Ms. Reyes always kept him under her control. They cannot let monsters like him roam freely. Nita asked if it was the same reason for them to be here, confined as monsters. Marielle told her that their reason for being here is different, as they're here so that they could be sold. Again, another creak of the door was heard. Nita got alerted, but Marielle didn't. Looking at her unchanged expression, Nita asked if the number of visitors always remained this high in this place. Marielle seemed tensed. She said that she did not know about it. Nita asked about the other prisoners that would have remained here, but Marielle did not want to talk about them as well. Nita was now desperate to get some useful information out of her. Marielle praised her healing abilities, and on that, Nita got a chance. She asked about her type. She said that she's a human, but Nita wanted a more specific answer. Just then, Kavit came in with 2 plates of food. He passed the first one to Marielle through the food space that was made in the glass wall. Then he turned around and did the same with Nita's food too. As he was going, Nita asked him about the shower, which she wanted to turn on. Kavit said that she can't do it as it works on an external mechanism, and he is the one outside. She thanked him for that valuable information, but he knows what's going on in her mind. He told her that being nice to him would not help or save her, as nothing else could. Marielle was shocked to see that Nita had a conversation with Kavit. She called her mad, but Nita said that she wanted a shower. She then came back to where they left off. She had asked Marielle about her type. This time she didn't have any choice, so she asked her if she knew about the pink dolphins of the Amazon River. She told her about a legend that is passed down to the locals along the riverside. It's about a man who occasionally comes at sunset, and with his flattery, he seduces the local girls around and spends the night with them, making most of them bear his babies, which, in reality, come out to be the pink dolphins. But since it's an old legend, everyone has their own versions of it. Nita didn't buy it herself, so Marielle told her the one that she believed to be true. When the Sunset Man got his girl, they spent the evening together, and at night, he lured the girl to the river and revealed his true form while taking her into the deep water with him. And by the morning, he had left for another village, for another prey. Nita called this one as unbelievable as the previous one, but Marielle said that this is the popular tale of the pink dolphins from Iquitos, the place from which she had come. Nita asked if she could turn into a dolphin herself, but Marielle laughed it off, saying that she could not turn into a dolphin but, more like the man, Bodo Corderosa, she could change her skin color based on the diet she takes. Nita punched the glass angrily, as she had expected her power to be somewhat useful for them. Marielle is reminded that her powers are also as useless as hers, as she cannot do anything other than heal herself. Also, she reminded her that Kavit would be coming back and suggested she stop hitting the glass. Nita questioned herself if she could learn any new abilities, even the basic ones that her mother uses to enhance her physical strength. In an instant, she can supercharge her muscles to be like those of a superhuman. Nita, on the other hand, had tried doing that when she was younger but never succeeded. But this time is different. Now she's not doing it for the fun of it, she really needs it to save her own life. She has the power to rebuild her muscle structure, so it would be possible for her to make them strong enough to break the glass. Using her unnatural powers, she began the synthesis of newer muscles in her forearm and, with all of her strength, punched the glass again. The glass didn't break, but her fist with 3 fingers did. Marielle requested that she not go any further to hurt herself, as nothing good is going to happen out of her desperate efforts. Footsteps were heard. Kavit had arrived. He passed something through the small window and asked about her hand. Nothing, Nita said. Covet put his hand in his pocket and put out a soap, saying that Ms. Reyes wants her to be presentable in front of the buyers. He also told her that the shower would start in 2 minutes. Nita took a shower while thinking about her present condition. Although she cannot feel any pain right now, her mental state is what is most affected. She's feeling nausea, exhaustion, and every other problem that mentally tense people face. The feeling of her broken bones grinding against each other was one of them. She hates this place and herself for not finishing the message that she was writing to her father. Suddenly the water stopped, and she had to conclude her shower session there. The shower had given her the clarity that she needed. She now knows that getting dopamine will do no good to her. It's better to clear her mind. So she started the process by remembering the last dissection that she had done. From the eyes to the heart she got through that and cleared her mind, but she was feeling cold. Marielle asked if she had a family. From family, she realized that if she successfully got out of this place, her mother would definitely respect her. Marielle told her about her own family, which lives in Peru and Brazil. She said that she misses them a lot. Nita asked Marielle about the person who watches over the surveillance cameras. She told her that Covet, the Zanny, watches over them. Hearing that, Nita got up with a new energy in her body. With some signs and air gestures, she tried to lure his attention towards her. When Marielle was asked what she was up to, she said that she was going to change things up. Nita asked Marielle if Covet watches over the surveillance cameras all the time, but she didn't reply, saying that she had talked enough with her. Covet arrived, and Marielle started remembering Jesus. Covet saw her and went to Nita. He asked her what she wanted. She hadn't planned that out and had nothing to say. The thoughts of self-defense, in case he wanted to torture her, were the only things that were going in and out of her mind at that moment. As she had nothing, Covet was about to leave, but then she said that she was getting bored. He reminded her that she has a friend right in front of her, but Nita said that she cannot be called great company. Covet thought that she wanted him to make her into one, but then she stopped him and asked if he had some books and a blanket. Covet told him that it's not a hotel's room service, but then Nita pointed towards Marielle and said that she's having a blanket. She accused him of discriminating between prisoners and having personal favorites. He warned her that she would not like to be his favorite. As he was going, Nita told him that she felt like he wanted to ask her something. He turned to her and asked about the pain receptors that she had switched off. She asked him what he would have done if he were at her place. Covet gave the most obvious answer and told her that he knows what pain feels like, but he cannot feed on his own pain. Like a normal human, he also feels the pain, in the exact same amount. Nita told him that this fact makes the Xanas even more monstrous, as they know what pain feels like but still cause it to other humans for their own pleasure. With a slight laugh, he agreed with her and went ahead, saying that he hates that word. What? Nita asked. Zanny, Covet replied. The scene shifted to Nita reading a book with a blanket on her. She could have survived even without the blanket, but still, it was better for her to have it than to raise her own body temperature to remain warm. She put the book aside and lied there, thinking about the strangeness that Covet had shown. He didn't have any need to bring the book or the blanket, but he still did. There was some kind of strangeness that she sensed in his smile. From all the recent smiles that she had seen, she observed, matched, and confirmed them all to be similar. But as much as she had gotten deeper into this observation, she was getting dizzier, and she eventually passed out. With a voice calling out her name, she woke up and saw Marielle shaking in her blanket. She heard some footsteps coming towards them. At first, she thought of them as her father. Happy to see that her father had finally come to save her, she was ready to get out of that cell. But the actual realization of him being some other man broke her hopes. She saw that these are 3 new men with Ms. Reyes that are approaching her. This was not her father. Nita was disappointed in making such a vague speculation but then collected her thoughts. This man came and looked at a shivering Marielle while Covet came from behind and apologized for being late. Ms. Reyes gave her an angry stare, but he got away with that. That man was still trying to talk to Marielle as he said that he was waiting to meet her. He was not able to have a proper conversation last time because he had his attention diverted by others, but now he had arrived especially for her. He said that he had heard that if one gets the eyes of a Bodo, they can make anyone they want fall in love with them. But Marielle told him that if he looks a Bodo in the eyes, they'll get nightmares for all of their lives. He said that now is their chance to know the truth, but before doing that, he told Ms. Reyes that he saw some new stock and turned to Nita. He asked her about Nita's type. Ms. Reyes told her that she had arrived yesterday and told him about her powers of regeneration. She said that they had posted a video of her online, and they are still doing some research on her skin sample. He asked if her body parts were grow completely, but she told him that it's something they have yet to know. They are currently monitoring her progress in healing. The man asked her to show a demonstration. Nita was afraid. She wanted to tell them that she cannot regrow body parts, but before that, Ms. Reyes asked Kavit to do his job. The door was opened, and Kavit entered with his knife. He asked her if they were going to do it the easy way or the hard way. Nita did not want to do it in any way, but she had no choice. She ended up accepting the easy way and giving up on some of her skin. She had stopped her healing process, which pissed the buyer as he thought that she could not heal. But Ms. Reyes told him that she herself had slowed down her healing process and asked Nita to confirm her suspicion. Ms. Reyes told Nita that she knows she does not want to participate in their demonstration of her power. But now if she doesn't start healing herself, she would have to face some far worse methods that she has under her sleeve, which are much more unpleasant than this simple skin peeling. Boulder asked Reyes if her healing abilities could be transferred through the consumption of her flesh. Nita was shocked and disgusted to her core when she heard those words. She was not able to believe her ears. Reyes told her that it is possible to gain her abilities, which are not only limited to regeneration but also to neuromuscular manipulation. She gave the example of Kavit, who was not sensing anything, which meant that she'd been suppressing her pain all by herself. She said that it's okay for her to deal with the pain, but other than that, she had various other methods to let her show her regenerative abilities. Reyes ordered Kavit to cut off Nita's fingers. Nita was not able to maintain her composure and got terrified. She agreed to regenerate her skin and showed it to them. Boulder was fascinated by her performance and asked how much Reyes wanted for her. Ms. Reyes told her that she'll be auctioning her parts this week, and until then, many more people are coming to meet her in person. Boulder asked if she could sell him that strip of flesh that had just been sliced off. Reyes told him that this valuable piece of flesh would not be cheap, and for that, she asked for the contact information of the FBI agent that Boulder had with him. He agreed, and she ordered Kavit to take that flesh to Boulder. With a not-so-happy face, Kavit gave him that flesh strip, which he gulped down in the hope of getting immortality. Reyes told him that this immortality is not guaranteed, but she'll take her money and the other stuff with a full guarantee. Boulder promised and told her that she'd get all the things in the usual manner, along with the contact details of his friend in the FBI. Nita reminded herself that Zanny's blood is used as a painkiller and has an anesthetic effect, while the bone powder of unicorns is used as a drug with unbelievable stoning capacities. She doesn't know if her body parts could be used to give people her body manipulating powers. Boulder left after finalizing their deal. After that, Reyes caught one of her boys using unicorn bones. She caught him by his neck and warned him to never use the unicorn bone again while at work, or else she would give him to Kavit. She then ordered him to bring Marielle out, as she was part of their deal and has now been sold. When they entered her cage, she started resisting and tried to run away but got caught. Nita, who was witnessing all that, was just imagining herself holding her scalpel in her hand. That feeling of handling her instruments and cutting down dead bodies calms her down. Marielle was crying out loud for help while Lorenzo and the other man were dragging her out of her cell. She was not able to stand it when Marielle asked for help in the same manner Fabricio did. "Ayudame," is what she said. Nita stopped them, and Ms. Reyes came to her and asked if she needed anything. Now that she's facing Ms. Reyes, Nita knows that her rebellious behavior worked against her as the men were not stopping. And now Reyes is standing in front of her. She asked her if she was feeling bad for her cellmate, and Nita said that her name was Marielle. Reyes understood and ordered Kavit to cut off her fingers. Kavit told her that it wouldn't help him in any way as she couldn't feel any pain. But Reyes was still determined to cut her 3 fingers. She then decided to give her 2 choices to choose from. The first one is to lose 3 fingers, and the second one is to activate her pain receptors and let Kavit enjoy the pain for an hour. Now the choice was hers to make. Either way, she was going to hurt herself. Reyes left the place and told Kavit to make whatever choice she chose. Nita's mind had given her 5 seconds to make a decision. Even though she had the choice, the answer was clear to her. If she loses her fingers, then she would be able to live, but if she activates her pain receptors and Kavit senses her pain, he will not stop at any cost and will end up killing him. Or worse, there will be no chance for her to survive. She declared that she'd not activate her pain receptors and would accept her fingers being cut off. Kavit respected her decision and said the same thing. If she had chosen the other option, she wouldn't be able to save herself from him. Without cutting her fingers, Kavit left the cell. Nita was sitting in a corner. She was feeling bad and lonely for Marielle and herself. She didn't even know if she would ever come back. She thought of this as karma coming back to her for dissecting all those bodies that she had chopped into pieces. Even though she was ignorant of what she was doing, there was no reason for her to be innocent. She knew that things were not right from the very beginning. Her mother had protected her from all these dark secrets that were just creeping behind her, and now they had finally caught her. All the suffering that those bodies would have faced, all those unfulfilled dreams, everything is coming back to her. She had never seen any of that except for the one time when Fabrizio came. Imagining his injured and damaged condition inside the cage reminds her of her own condition. Now she's the one caught in the cage. If she had gone with him at that time, her mother would have traced both of them down, and it was possible that at this moment, both of them would have been suffering. But still, it was the most stupid decision that she had made, and its complete responsibility falls on her as no one other than her was involved in this. In the end, she just hoped that Fabrizio would be safe wherever he lives. There was this question that was in the minds of almost everyone for a very long time. Where did Xanis come from? Some say that they came from the parallel worlds of the alternate universes, the world where the concepts of pleasure and pain have been mixed up to a level where it's not possible for people to differentiate between them. In different restaurants, people come to enjoy the food, but not all of them. Some go there just to see the sharp objects being mishandled. These minor accidents work as snacks for the Xanis. Reading these types of stories, Nita felt really bad, as there was no evidence given for anything written in that book. This book was a complete waste, according to her. She was trying to read it so that she could divert her mind from Marielle, but this book is starting another war of thoughts in her mind. She turned some pages and found another story called The Kappa Murders. This story took place in Japan around 30 years ago, when a boy named Sasuke was staring at a shallow lake while his mother called him, and he heard what she was saying. This diverted focus of his gave the Kappa a chance to grab his leg and drag him into the water. This incident was later turned into a popular horror movie with an American actor. But soon this actor was accused of being a real-life Kappa. These accusations increased in number and ended up destroying his career, along with numerous death threats. To this day, they are kept on the dangerous unnaturals list. The book had many chapters on different types of supernatural beings like ghouls, vampires, etc. Ghouls attracted her attention. They eat humans but look like normal humans as well. Nita had a bad dream in which her mother was going to dissect her, but then she changed into rays. With a scream, she woke up. Soon Kovit came and asked her if she had a nightmare. Nita nodded, so he left. She looked at Marielle's empty cell and, because of the fear and emptiness, felt cold. She wondered what type of guy he was, but then he came back with cards and asked her if she had ever played poker. Thank you for watching. Subscribe and enable notifications so you don't miss the next chapter.